Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is a Tuesday. I am Rich, and this is the 2GT Homelab Hour. Thank you all for joining me. I got us a special guest. He doesn't necessarily know this because I didn't mention to him, but I think it was like 2 weeks ago or last week ago. Someone's like, "Hey, when are you gonna have Tom back on?" And I had to get Tom back on. Anyway, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. This is episode 62. It is July 14th. This is the 2GT Homelab Hour. This is the time to just ask questions and hang out, talk about home labbing, nerd stuff, technology, the content. If you got questions about any of the content I make, the chat started blowing up. We got Aragorn in there, Levix, Jason, Shadow giving me a hard time about putting the USB boot disk in the wrong server, but in my defense, it's a quad node. They all look the same, whatever. And Project Mini Hero, thank you guys for all joining me. After the show, we get on the Discords and have an after hours hangout. So if you want to talk to me and others and just kind of, it's a good time. We all hang out and talk over each other and learn about each other's days, what's going on, technology. It's a good time and available to everybody, like the Discord. Anyway. And one last thing, Brandon is here behind the scenes, pressing the buttons, turn the knobs, make sure that this goes well. So if this goes well, it's because of Brandon. If it goes poorly, it's because of me. That's enough spiel, I think. I hate to keep my guest waiting. He needs no introduction because he's also been here many times. But let's get the fantastic Tom Lawrence up here. Tom,
how are we doing?
Thank you again so much. Not just are you one of my most favorite, might be the most favorite person that I get to talk to on the regular, but the people in my community, the people in your community, they're a lot basically the same people.
Right? Like a Venn diagram is a circle.
Yeah, exactly. They're very close. There's very little that doesn't overlap.
But on the live stream.
Exactly. And so they, oh, look, it's another nerd. Hi, Tom. And so they're like, we want Tom again. So I'm like, absolutely. It's been a month. Let's see what Tom's doing. So thank you so much for hanging out. Let's just start with how you been, man. It's been a while since we talked. So what's up in the world of Tom Lawrence?
I took a little bit of time off. I did a bunch of camping trips, things like that. Occasionally literally touch grass. I've been helping my friend though. It still ends up being nerd stuff because of the friends I have. And I spent part of yesterday helping my friend with a solar project. We're talking a lot of solar, enough solar to run his whole house and everything else. It's he's got a farm. Well, he's got acreage. He calls it a farm, but he calls it the cyber farm because the only thing they're farming there is solar. And so, so that's been there's been a couple moments about it where, because this is very DIY. Now we are under supervision of professionals. We didn't just Claude
YOLO for you
project, or maybe we did, and maybe Claude forgot to tell us a few things that an electrician came and told us we should do. So there is some adult supervision going on.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. As I also upgraded some of the solar on my camper and things like that. I like a lot of hands-on projects, and I feel I've spent so much time lately just doing all these different home lab projects and things like that. It's fun playing with Docker, don't get me wrong, and Proxmox and diving into that and all the content I've created around it. But the other side is I like some of the physical, tangible, like upgrading the solar on my camper and then rewiring batteries and wires and cables, and all the little projects that are kind of spawning from that are actually kind of fun. And I've been just diving into them. It's kind of, there's a gap. Some people said, like, are you quitting YouTube or something? Because you took this job at Huntress and there's not as many videos. I'm like, actually, I've just been outside like doing things. I still love tech. I just sometimes need a break from it, I think.
I completely agree. You remind me with the solar panel stuff. I feel guilty about my station in life a lot of times for some reason. And one of those guilts are around the amount of power that I consume with this hobby, this thing I do, right? And so I did talk to a talk to a contractor to see what I could do. Mm-hmm. Short answer was, I don't have enough physical square footage on my roof to cover what I consume And when I handed him my electrical bill and we were doing the calculations, he said, there's got to be a mistake here. I'm like, no, let me take you into the garage. And here's 3 kilowatts of burning at any given time. So I gave up on that because I can't make a dent, unfortunately. But I wish I
Yeah,
could.
and my friend, he works in tech as well, so he hasn't put all the servers at his house yet. He's got a few. They've been stacking up. We're about to do a video on what he does have, but he also, because of where he lives right by me, but on the in an area that just, it doesn't have the same infrastructure because it's a more rural area where everyone's really spread out. So when he has a power outage, because it's a lower density area, when we have a storm come through, he might lose power for 2 days. So that's his other reason for doing it. Isn't just offsets, but also when the power's off. I had to loan him my generators as power. We had a storm and the power went out again for him. And I've been here 6 years, completely knock on wood. I think we've had an hour of outage in 6 years that I've lived in this house, because I'm tied to a new grid with all underground cables. They put in all new for like where the houses are. So I don't have like your standard, lines running where trees hit them. So my tie-in is to like a main system that is all underground cabling. It just doesn't seem to go out, which has been great.
Yeah. Same here. I think that there's something to be said about modern practices for power, provisioning and new neighborhoods with power underground. This is the way, right? That's same thing. So
well, except when some moron with a backhoe.
Fair, yeah.
It's just like when they cut a fiber line. One of them in Detroit cut a whole series of trunk lines with backhoe. Yeah, it happened about 2 months ago, and a few of my friends were majorly impacted because there was no rerouting around this. They took out a whole lot of things. It sent like a lot of people scrambling to sort out how many fibers were just cut.
Wow. I wonder, do you know in your tenure, I mean, we're off to a good start here, working in this industry, when a contractor does pull out a fiber sniffing backhoe and wipe out a bundle, how much does he think that? I mean, there's got to be like a huge cost, not just the effort to like the human hours the man hours to resplice and everything, but like the businesses and the companies and the SLAs and the committed access and all that kind of stuff. Like, do you have any idea what that really costs a contractor?
Yes.
You do? Oh, good.
Yes. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was an outstanding amount of money. And I think we when I say we, because I worked for the company at the time that was the offender.
Oh,
yeah. I think it was $100,000 fine. It all came down to our insurance. So, we had this. I used to be IT for a trucking company, and I think it's probably long enough, and there's probably no one here that could connect the dots. But kind of what happened is we had a guy that later was nicknamed Trainwreck Marvin. So,
oh boy.
When you're driving a 53-foot truck loaded with, 40,000 pounds of automotive parts, perhaps if it says you shouldn't drive over the tracks, you shouldn't drive over the tracks, because there was like a stop sign, not a stop sign, but a light on the other side of the tracks that left your trailer over the tracks. This is a spot where trucks shouldn't be. So I just remember the fine from Verizon, because when the train hit the truck, it took out a bunch of poles that belonged to Verizon that were carrying all their stuff. So the fine came from Verizon directly for all the outages we caused everywhere. The ESX sued us. I can't remember. There was a lot of lawsuits that stemmed from this incident. But it's more the looking at like, I guess we're responsible for this like outage in its entire area, because as the trailer went down, because you've seen like videos you can find on YouTube where a train hits a truck and it just splits the truck in two. It's not made of anything particularly substantial, unless there's really heavy automotive parts in there. Then it carries the train, the entire 53-foot trailer down.
Oh man, just chunk all the way down the line till inertia brings it to a stop.
Yep. Something like that. So,
oh man.
So yes, it was amazing. I'm a nerd, so I'm fascinated from an engineering standpoint of, look at all that. And you got to remember, I worked there. This happened in 2001, earlier, like in the summer of 2001. So this level, it's not like you could find videos on the internet. YouTube didn't exist. Google was still new. This is 25 years ago. But we had to take all the exinfo. So I was just looking at them. I was just fascinated by it. Became an interesting engineering thing of, wow, look at all these high quality photos of this carnage everywhere. The driver was fine because it did separate from the truck, and the driver was in the cab. Driver was in the cab. but he isn't the one that told us what happened. The truck disappeared off the satellite, which was odd to us because we're like, he's in the wrong spot because we had satellite tracking. And then it turned out that the satellite tracking went off. And at the time, there was these sold at truck stops. Qualcomm made the satellite tracking. I think they still make it, but it was the most popular satellite tracking system. And these domes that were on top of the truck. And they used to sell the Quell condoms. And there was like a Faraday bag they'd put over them so the drivers could be like hide where they're doing or use the truck for some other side job. So we made the assumption maybe this guy had done X. He just went rogue. We're like, okay, he's rogue for some reason. And then hours go by, and then we get a message from the Qualcomm system. If you can read this, the truck is now upright. Call officer something something and put a phone number in there for us. And we're like, well, that's not a good message. And so apparently when they tipped the truck back over and an officer typed in our little screen to let our dispatch know. And I don't know, he didn't just call us. Our numbers were on the trucks. But either way, he typed that into that, which immediately prompted our dispatch to call, and the fiasco unraveled.
Oh, my goodness. And I just got to, in that situation, the truck driver, did he not think to radio back and be like, the payload is 100 meters that way? Oh, damn.
Like, this guy's an idiot. He wasn't, they drug tested him, and I was like, I'm sure it'll come back clean. He's just stupid.
He's just stupid.
He was like, there was a lot of other people that were concerned that he drove a truck because he was not a smart human. So
apparently the bar for a CDL is quite low then, eh?
Yeah, that's they talk a lot about that now, but I'm like, look, I worked in transportation 25 years ago. The bar was low then too. It's been a downward. I'm sure it's worse today. I don't keep up with that industry trend, but from what I heard, it's truck driver isn't the glamorous job it used to be forever ago when my grandfather did it. So
that's wild. That's wild. So I have some few things. You and I talked before this and have some interesting things to talk about. Before we get to like just the general kind of stuff, I want your thoughts on this. I don't know if you can see this very well, but
cable.
Yeah, in my left or my right hand here is just a regular Cat 5 patch cable. But it's your regular 24 gauge.
Yep.
Right.
And people get then thin ones.
And here's a 10 gauge, and so same cable, both cables rated for 10 gig.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on these dudes?
I like the thin ones. They're fine. They meet the spec. So Rob Barrera, if there's a video I did with him, it was fun. I was throwing those questions out there. This goes back a number of years. I should reach back out to him. It goes back a number of years. Someone started commenting and replying to people, me talking about cable specs, and with really concise answers. But then he also emailed me, and he isn't just someone who knows the answers. He's the guy that was there. He works and does certifications. He's part of the IEEE board and certified Cat 5 and Cat 6. Or no, Cat 6. Yeah, Cat 6. He started there after Cat 5 was certified, but then he helped write the spec. He's an engineer. So he was on my channel, and he talked about the extra overheads you have for things that allow for thinner cables. It was a really interesting discussion. I think I did the video in like 2018. Wow, that's a long time ago. I wonder if he still works. He probably still does. But we talked about the extras that are in cable, just like how you can go over spec. Now, they won't certify when you go beyond a certain length because it's beyond what's you're supposed to do for a certifier, but they build into the spec like 15% of overhead. So you can go 15% beyond the spec. The same thing with the cabling. Use a nice, good pure copper. You can use thinner ones and they'll work fine. They'll even work. The number of people that said those thin cables won't work with PoE when I would do jobs and show pictures of all the small cables at the patch panel for PoE, they're like, it won't work. And I'm like, works fine. Dan Barrera talked about this. There's not a signal loss problem. So yeah, you can use them, but the internet will have opinions on them. So you will
of course. Yeah. I bring it up because my background where I grew up doing, when I did Cable Monkey stuff as a kid, right. Running wire for a small VAR, this sort of thing was a telltale sign of a bad quality cable, right?
In the early days, it probably was. I'm assuming they were probably bad back then. And
so, there's a part of me who looks at this and goes, this, I believe this is I was just looking at this it says Cat 7, whatever, but Like it's got the separation and the shielding and all that kind of stuff because it's just kind of part and parcel for what you get.
Yeah.
And then, this is just super thin, teeny weeny 10 gauge.
Do you
And
have the Unify ones?
I don't. They're thinner.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They are interestingly thin.
And obviously they pass. They wouldn't sell them.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. I think I have, oh no, this is a thicker one, but this is one of the Unify ones. This is pretty thin. This is also a 30-foot cable, but their patch ones I think are a little smaller than this. And I can squeeze this. It actually has a little bit of space in it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's if you take the time to dig into what those can carry, you'd kind of be shocked at the amount of capacitance they have. It's more than people expect. It doesn't take, when you start really looking at traces, for example, when you take something electronic apart that provides high voltage, for example, you look at the traces on it and think about how small those traces are and go, well, this plugs into the wall at 120 volts and does the thing. Like it's not necessarily being stepped down. And there's these thin little traces drawn on a circuit board that are able to handle that wattage. But part of my weird little upgrade project I'm doing for there's an end goal to Tom's camper. I will sacrifice some comforts to go camping because I want to be out in the woods, but coffee's not really one of them. So we want to make sure we can run a 1500 watt coffee maker. And
holy shit, Tom.
so we have an inverter set up on that. Now it's also how much can be carried is also related to the voltage that it operates at. Lower voltages. Sure. When you look at the really heavy gauge cables it takes to run an inverter, you're like, this is a monster 4 gauge cable you got running an inverter. But when you plug in a Keurig coffee maker, it's a thin little, plug in the wall. And you kind of look at it that way. And that's the difference. It's still pulling 1500 watts, but at 12 volts, you need like these big heavy cables to do so. But when you get on the 120 volt side, you can do it with thin cables. And it's just the way the voltage works out. Even with my friend's solar project, the cables that carry the high power, because you put the solar panels in 500 volt rails. So each row of solar panels is series wired together to cumulatively have 500 volt, but that allows you to have a lower, because if you hooked them up into smaller voltages but higher amperages, you need thicker cable. So the higher voltage allows less losses. Electrical stuff gets like deep in the weeds. This is why we did eventually, because even though we were making assumptions on some of these things and we were reading engineering docs, we still had an electrician come over and bless exactly how we were doing this. Someone who's because you have to get for the solar project my friend's doing, you got to get a special engineering permit because of the size it is. So that's why we had to have an electrician to bless all the project that's going on. But back to like the point though, those cables at the higher voltage that PoE runs at is actually able to carry a decent amount of power. That's one of the reasons they've been going up in the voltage to what they can. I think that if I'm not mistaken, PoE tops out at 72 volts. Someone correct me on that in the comments if I'm not wrong. But the earlier PoE was 24. One of the reasons they raised it was so it can carry more
wattage across it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. You showed off a little bit there and you made a video, but I did want to talk to you about that sensor and and specifically just get a thought from you about Unify's pivot. Is that the right word? Would you use the word pivot or would you use diversification?
Diversification, because pivot would mean they stopped doing this and did that. And I think they've been kind of a spaghetti at the wall company sometimes, but also a company that just says, what do our customers want? And are sometimes really nailing it. Things they got wrong, talk. Just throw it out there. VoIP, not their thing. They thought they could conquer the VoIP market. The VoIP market is terrible. And they never really accomplished, I think, what they maybe set out to do in the VoIP market. They were into solar briefly. They got into lighting briefly. I don't think any of those were good ideas for them. But when you talk about a $99 sensor, pop this. Here's a challenge. I want to monitor my server room environment. What device has built-in notifications, alarm management, webhooks, Slack hooks, all the features you would want in your customer server room? That is, obviously they do have to be running Protect. They have to be running a camera system. But assuming they're in the unified.
Oh, I didn't know that was mandatory. I thought that was just integrate with the rest of the gear, but no.
No, it specifically integrates with the Protect line. Which is a shame because I kind of wish they integrated just the sensor features into the standard unified platform. That'd be kind of a neat feature. I get it that it's tied more to Protect, but then again, Protect is relatively, you can run the Protect on their little cloud key if you wanted. You can buy a really inexpensive setup for Protect and tie this to it. And when you look at what any sensors cost in the commercial IT field, you're like, yeah, it's $1,000 box to monitor temperature in my CO2 temperature, et cetera. All the things you might want to monitor in a server room are expensive when you look at the commercial side of IT. And this little box is surprisingly good. Now, people were confused about me comparing it to the Aranet. And the reason I compared to this, and if you do some digging, people are like, but Tom, IKEA makes a $39 sensor, and Air Things, I think, is one of them. They make one that's like $79 that does CO2. Why would you ever spend $189? And that's what I spent. Actually, I got it on sale for $169, but I did buy this. Aranet is, if you start going down the rabbit hole of these, the most accurate one out there. It's like the standard by which people benchmark everything because you're paying for the extra calibration that they do. So the fact that Unified comes close to it was impressive in terms of CO2 monitoring.
Yeah, I guess I just assumed because their UPS is integrated into the network application.
Yeah,
and you could make an argument that they could go anywhere. They could go into maybe a more generic platform that is a catch-all for a lot of these ancillary systems that they've got all over the place, right? Feels like Connect is a weird, or Protect is a weird place to put it. It isn't, and it isn't, I guess. It was an easy choice versus probably creating an IoT platform in addition.
Because it just smoothly integrates and Protect. It would feel more weird, in my opinion, to put it in the standard stack of your networking gear. Because why do I need a set? Most networking gear doesn't need a sensor. But if you're monitoring, for example, you're monitoring. I do have a camera in my server, and I have I don't have a sensor now because it's on the desk over here. But if you have a sensor in there, in that room, you can do some correlation, like the temperature's going up, or is someone vaping in there? I can imagine the server room becoming the place people vape. Up there.
Now your servers just smell like peach or
bubble
gum or something, cotton candy all the time.
Going on in there.
Yeah.
So being able to detect that, being able to detect the air quality in a server room and understand how many particulates might be in the air is something interesting. And that part I could see going to networking, but I don't know. They chose to put it in Protect. I kind of get why they don't put it in both. You have to kind of pick a landing place for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine it was an easier lift for them to do that in an existing platform than it would have been to create something from whole cloth, right?
Yeah. And who wants more places to check things?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say one place to rule them all would be my preference. Why have so many panes of glass? But I mean, I guess some people don't run or maybe don't have an interest in running unified networking, and maybe just the camera control and protection is really access control is where it's at for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, in the Protect and access control kind of tie into each other because you can tie a door swipe to, like, when it swipes, give me the picture from the camera that was watching it. So you tie them together. And this ties together with a camera as well. So you can say, tie this so this alerts and has the camera feed to go with it. So you can like pair it with a camera that's in the same room if you want.
Yeah, I see something valuable like that. Like back in the day, I remember working in data centers or server rooms that had halon, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a whole bunch, and even carbon dioxide. Like the last big data center I built it had a gigantic tank of carbon dioxide, and in a fire, it evacuated that entire giant tank immediately, right? And so if you're in that room, you better get the hell out because it's going to be hard to breathe. And
Yep.
I mean, a lot safer than halon. That's why they don't use halon anymore. But so I can see sensors like that being beneficial, right? Like, oh boy, something's going on here. There's got a leak or something like that, right?
Well, and not only that, when is the room clear from CO2? Right. When is there a proper amount of oxygen so we can go back in?
Which, if it's a server room, it's sealed, so it takes a real long time.
Yeah,
open the doors.
It recirculates, doesn't exchange. So,
right.
Yeah. Interestingly, they do vegetables the same way. They keep the apples and things like that fresh by filling a room with CO2.
Mm-hmm.
And what CO2 is interesting because you don't know you're breathing it.
Right.
It's one of those things that you're breathing normally until you pass out because there's just not enough oxygen anymore. But you don't have that panic like you're drowning type things. You're breathing in and out. So it's one of those silent killer type things.
Yep.
And as I mentioned in a video, a lot of people don't know this, but once the CO2 starts exceeding, and there's people debating it, say it's lower, but EPA says like 1400 or 1500, your cognitive function starts going down. You yawn more. And it's been crazy. I've seen it get up to 3,000 when we had a bunch of people over. I was like, woo,
wow, that's amazing.
For our Christmas party, we had a lot of people at my house, and the CO2 levels in the house got up to 3,000. I was just like, wow.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's why every bed, if you have a bedroom, by law, it has to have a window. I think that there's something about carbon dioxide in bedrooms and sleeping that you don't have to have the window open, but the window's there for air. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I think it's egress is the most important.
That makes a whole lot more sense now you say that, Tom. So there's that.
Yeah, you can't call in Michigan. I mean, it's probably national building code, but I know at least Michigan's building code says a room is not a living space in the basement unless it has an egress window. That's law. And bedrooms are the same way if you want to put a bedroom in the basement. So that's kind of an issue. Also, modern furnace installs, like mine has this, it just doesn't do enough of it. I have a positive airflow system that pulls in and draws on the cold air side filtered air from outside to exchange it. That's actually a building code thing now when you put in for new houses, because the houses are so well sealed, they don't leak like they used to. Yay for thermal efficiency. Now you've trapped all the warm air and oxygen or lack of oxygen in the room. So
yeah, I imagine that's probably something to get away, because here they tend to put them in the garage, right? If you got a garage. So imagine that's their open air space, since it's not a sealed area. But
yeah, and you can pull it in from there. Yeah, you don't have the same extreme climates where you're at that we do. So true.
Yeah, there's days I miss it, but it's only a day. It's fun to visit. It's terrible to stay. That's where I remember it growing up. But well, let's move on. You sent me this guy here. I'll throw it up on the screen here. Let's talk about this, because it led us to an earlier good conversation, specifically this subreddit post in the subreddit self-hosted. This subreddit used to be fun, and this user said, this subreddit used to be a fun place for me to get fresh ideas of cool projects to self-host and hear about people's experiences and seeing people building things, even sometimes with 32 or 64 gigabytes of RAM. I have lots more than that. Now I feel like many of these posts are talking about, some new AI slop app someone vibe coded overnight while drinking too many Red Bulls, or about how lucky someone is to have just bought an M1 MacBook with 8 gigs of RAM.
Yes. I feel there's been a big shift where there's just tokens are cheap, and I encourage people to experiment and build things. That's awesome. But I feel like there's been this entire slopification of things. It's the world of slopification here in 2026, where every time someone doesn't like a project, and I get it, there's disagreements, and this is how projects get forked. I don't like Plex, so we did this, or I don't like MB, so now we have Jellyfin. And those are not easy to do, to fork and start a new project in the past. Now it's like, point at source code repository. I don't like an icon in this whole setup, so I'm rebuilding a new image app. The number of people that rebuild note-taking apps, we have a plethora of them, and there's always a new one. I look through there, I'm like, oh, look, someone did this. And the other day, I like Image a lot. I think it's one of the ones that got me off of Synology Photos. I said, wow, Image is the first one I've looked at, because there's been a few other ones, but they just, I don't know, didn't feel right. I tried Image. I really liked it, did a video on it. And then someone the other day, and I think it was in self-hosted or one of the Homelab subreddits, had posted, hey, I built a new photo app again. They were at least honest in their replies, something like, people like, well, what's wrong with Image? And they're like, Image is too complicated. I'll never have the features of Image, so don't compare me to them. I'm just a basic, I wrote a really, really simple photo app for myself. But it also kind of clogs up the self-hosted, like, I don't know, are you looking for something easier than Image? Image exists. It's, in my opinion, relatively easy to set up, feature rich, has a strong development team behind it, open source and everything, so you're not worried about rug pulls. It's even backed by the Fudo company, so you're like, have all the right things going for Image. Instead of someone wanting to contribute to the project or whatever, they just let me invent another one. I think that's kind of wearing on people because you see, like someone said, if I went there and there's very few posts, but the posts are high quality, low signal to noise ratio, it's better. It's like that in security. You want high fidelity signals that something is happening, not a whole lot of noise, because then you're just fatigued. So.
Yeah. And I feel so conflicted by this because when you sent this to me, my first thought was, well, I'm one of those vibe coders. This guy's talking about me. Now, I don't go and blast my wares and what I'm working on all over Reddit, and that probably be a key differentiator, right? But I see these as a way to allow me to create the things that I want, but I have no skills to do, right? I didn't go to college to become a software engineer. That train has left the station probably about 20 years ago for me. So, but I got lots of great ideas. And so I feel like this is also we live in this, take the Reddit side of it out of it. Cause I think there's something to be said about Reddit and the environment. Yeah. That is Reddit, right? As someone just said in the chat, the cesspool that is Reddit. But also, is this just a transition thing where this stuff's not going to end. Even when the token fountain goes dry and things become far more expensive, I still expect to see a lot of people making their own stuff with local hosted models, or maybe they still do, but just produce at a less speed because token expenses are higher.
Yeah.
But
it scratches an itch for me, myself. I seen this as a good discussion the other day, oddly on Reddit, but hear me out. Someone said, like, what are you automating with AI? And someone says, I don't automate with AI. AI is, a non-predictive system. It wasn't made to automate. But what it does a good job of is I have a stupid problem. There are specific subreddits that I pull, such as Reddit r MSP. These are places I keep an eye on. This is kind of related to me watching the news, but also me watching the vibe of the communities for Huntress and things like that, because as part of my job as the community manager there. And because I want to watch those feeds, Reddit has decided RSS is not their thing anymore unless you have a token and session logged in, and made it a pain in the butt. And I know how curl can work, and curl can inject a token that I extracted from my Reddit login, but I don't really know how to do that. I know all the pieces that need to go in this bash script,
right.
But drop it in Claude, and I think it took me, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to write a bash script that has separates it. It's not for those that are wondering, yes, I do separate variables. I have a variable external to the bash script that holds my token that I extract out of the browser, really simple to do. And then it goes and queries the subreddits, adds my token, grabs the RSS feeds, drops them on a file. I use Fresh RSS, which I've been using for years to pull all my news feeds together. And now all my Reddit feeds are nice and organized again, just like they used to be before Reddit decided to stop me from just pulling an RSS feed. And, so it's a little one-off things like that. Now, it's not an AI automation. AI helped me build it. I had to do a little bit of tuning for it today because Reddit changed something about the way the front page works. I don't understand what they did. So I had to make a couple modifications to it. Easy. I didn't even need Claude for that. That's just like changing the way the feeds work. No, I had to ask Claude a question of how the structure was, and it gave me a piece of information I needed, and I just fixed the bash script. I think it's really useful for solving those problems, or the one-off parsing of data. I have a pile of thing here, and I want to sort it and put it over here in a different format, like an import export type of thing when you're moving data around. Great for that. Great for those use cases. I don't think those are problems at all for using AI.
Yeah, and I think that the way I've come to see this is that it is a tool, right? And because it's a tool, anyone can use that tool to whatever the means to an end is for them, right? Like you're saying, like, I need help with this bash script, or I need to simplify. I've done similar things in the day job where I need to pull data out of ServiceNow, and ServiceNow doesn't let you export data because, hey, they want you to stay in the platform. But you know what? They have an API. I'm not going to learn how to do it, but I can code up a great Python script to grab my data, right? And so it's a tool. As long as you have a vision and what you're looking to get out of it, and not just go make me a thing that looks like and does this, and then you throw it out into the world. I feel like there's responsible tool use, and then there's maybe this is neat and shiny and look what I can do, and now I'm going to put it on Reddit and make everyone else mad. I guess I don't, but I just feel like it's a bit of tool use, right? And how you use it.
It's one of those things, like, I'm not obviously going to publish on GitHub this. I mean, it works. It's a functioning bash script I have as a workaround for it. So I'm not turning to an application. And I think it's what a lot of people are trying to do. They're hoping to get some internet fame points, whether it be Reddit or GitHub or wherever they're trying to put it. And they're not doing it for a personal project. They're like, it comes down to what the person's intention and goal is. My end goal was to get my Reddit feeds organized back into fresh RSS like they used to be. So I was just annoyed that AI actually caused this problem, because Reddit's trying to fend off the AI slot machines from pulling in all the Reddit. So they make you log in. So now I have to log in, even though I'm not an AI, but I have to use AI to write to work around this. So I'm kind of annoyed. It's a full circle of stupid, but I'm also not. My intention is to get my fresh RSS back to working. Some people's intention is, hey, look at me. I wrote a thing on GitHub. Give me stars. There was that really big incident. Was it 2 or 3 months ago? A guy had horribly put together, and no one really looked at it. They just liked the project. One of those tools, and there's a name someone will know.
You're talking about what was that Rs project? I can't remember what it was, but where he leaked the APIs keys of every one of your, I remember that one.
Where you tie all the media things together to make it easier. I just don't use any of those apps. I know someone will be like, "Oh, Tom, how do you pull things together?" I'm like, I'm just weird. I will grab that Linux ISO torrent link I want, throw it in Qt BitTorrent, and when it's done doing its thing, it goes over into the media thing, and I'm just happy. People are like, "But don't you need an automation for it?" I'm like, not really. I don't. I guess I just don't download that many Linux ISOs. So,
but yeah, that guy who I think when that happened, my impression was that was probably some young kid, and he was terrified that something terrible was going to happen to him, and so he just exited, which was dramatic.
He just lit that bridge on fire.
Yes, yeah. It was like, like one of those ninja movies, smoke bomb, and he was gone, and so was the project. When I feel bad for that guy, because it probably, like, depending on how he took that, he's probably still to this day shaking every time he thinks about,
he's like never going to contribute to an open source project again.
Yeah, like he's gone to beet farming, or he's going to be, working in a stockyard. He won't touch technology anymore. So, I don't know.
Yeah. But the overall feel from the subreddit, and I'll mention this, the other pushing factor is kind of what the last part, what they said is, hardware's so expensive now. I can't just go out and buy a hard drive that used to be like $50 is now like $300 now. So it's kind of put a damper, but there's a part of me that hopes it'll bring back people who really want to write efficient code and efficient projects and really take tech to that next level from a dive deeper. This is how it was when you look back to something like Doom being created. They were on the cutting edge because that was just the limitations of the hardware. It's not that 16 gig of RAM. Well, I mean, technically 16 gig of RAM back then was really expensive in the days of Doom, but they looked around at the constraints that were available and said, we're going to work inside these constraints and build something awesome. And maybe some of that will happen, because we've really, I mean, it's every joke about NPM packages or any of the ecosystems in frameworks, that every project someone writes, like, what imports did you do? Well, people have a lot of storage, so I brought everything with me. It just, and that's the whole concept of Docker in a nutshell, is works on my computer, I'll just ship you my computer.
Yeah, I feel bad too, because I haven't. I'm building and incidentally, I'm building myself an AI box right now, but it's all scrounged together used parts off the net, because, it's really hard to get. I can't afford the expensive GPUs and whatnot. So and I feel the worst, especially in my, in the 2GT Discord community, because there's some young guys in there who are just getting into home labbing, and then this hit them. Right.
Yep.
And they're working hard just to scrounge together a computer. And that feels like that's the worst place to be, because you're talking about impacting, and not to be melodramatic, but kind of like future generations in a way. Right? Like, this love and passion for technology, and those people become engineers later. And it kills me to see that. So it's not going to change, though. And that's the thing. It's not going away anytime soon. unfortunately.
Yeah. There's two factors kind of impacting them as well, because harder to access hardware. Well, we'll go three here. We got harder to access hardware, harder to get a job, because in some ways you can take, if you have a really good network engineer and you give them some good tooling, the AI stuff, they can automate some of the tasks that might have previously been delegated to a junior engineer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And third, everything requires a license. It isn't like it used to be where you can go grab some old Cisco gear and it still works. It's like everything is so licensed now that these server polls and things like that are doing now, they're not going on a secondary market like they used to be. It's like everything was this enterprise, hard to get into license is how things are sold, versus, you grab a 2002 switch from Cisco, it just worked. Any hardware you got from that area, provided it's physically worked. It wasn't like it's got to reach out to the license server or it won't turn on anymore. And now everything is like, there is no interface on this. It adopts to the Meraki cloud, and that's the only thing you can do with this now. You got to have a Meraki account and a Meraki license. Well, how am I supposed to learn the Meraki? Well, that's not our problem, Mr. I want to get a job in engineering. I don't know how you get trained on that.
Yeah, I think that is the true enshittification right there, right? It really is being tied to it. Because thankfully servers don't necessarily have that yet, but like your firewall gear, I can definitely see it with, I don't know, I would say Cisco UCS is in first, followed by HPE would probably be second, would be my order of operations.
I mean, HP paywalls their firmware update.
Yeah, which is evil as hell. That's a crime. Like, yeah. But I see the same thing also with like firewall gear, like whether you want to buy or, secondary market, you get a hold of a Palo, or hopefully not some Fortinet stuff, but like, any enterprise firewall, like what you got is what you're going to get, right? You're not going to, unless you're going to pay them money, you're not getting a hold of any other updated firmware. So yeah,
it doesn't bode well for people wanting to get into it. And it's where Unify, I think, is really seizing the moment, because this is like the pipelining, and Microsoft's even losing the script on this, on a lot of things. But one of the reasons that Google is investing into classrooms as they are is because at one point the TAM, the total addressable market for Google, reached 93% of people use Google. What are we going to do next? Well, we can't produce people faster, but we can at least build the pipeline by giving Google's to schools for free. And we start building the next line of them. But in some ways, Ubiquity is doing that, because if the only gear they can get is Ubiquity, you have a whole huge group of people who are applying for jobs who are going to list on their resume, I built my lab with Ubiquity. And people start using it. Eventually those people become senior and they choose to put Ubiquity in there. And Ubiquity was what they had access to because it didn't need a licensing. It didn't turn into a pumpkin at midnight if the cloud went away. And it's the build pipeline I think the companies like Cisco and Fortinet are all missing right now, because it's that weird way. It's a long term. It's just like Linux being so popular now. It was unheard of in the early days when I was a young person in tech and I loaded those first Red Hat floppies and couldn't get the stupid mouse working in the X cursor. But now people my age, 26 years into their career, are the ones making the decisions. And we choose Linux for places. You couldn't imagine enterprise without Linux now. It's just part of it, what runs the cloud.
It is.
Microsoft just missed the mark on it, because as the old people, the Microsoft fanboys kind of aged out, got gray, and went out of the industry, the next generation that came in well, I used to use Linux, and this is how I'm going to do things. Now, granted, we know that it has Linux. The year of the Linux desktop is far, far from us. Maybe far, far from us. But when it comes to the server infrastructure and things like that, the world that the self-hosted people live in, Linux is king. And it's because it was accessible, it's powerful, it's very community-oriented, community-driven. Granted, there's always someone who's not welcoming to new people in the community, but in the big picture, there's enough welcomeness to it. Yeah,
that's the same thing that Apple did way back when I was a kid going to school, right? Apple was everywhere in schools. And then, that became, I remember, graduating and people went to college with Macs. That's what they went to college, because they'd been from Apple IIe's all the way up through. And, when Google then kicked in and started replacing that, it's how you, that's how you get the younger generation. You just start them on them young, and it's smart. It is. So
it's how you build that pipeline.
Yeah, that's for sure. And not to belabor this because I know we want to move on, but like it's the same thing like with VMware pulling the rug on ESXi. It's the same with all these other companies who are removing access to things because they fundamentally, we're not all going to be around forever, and I look forward to the day when I can retire from, professional IT work and, I'm not going to look back, and I don't foresee how people get to where I am now with the way things are at this, if they're coming into the market. So
yeah, it's the roll the rope up after. It makes it harder for the next people. It creates hurdles for them. So yeah, definitely a problem.
Yeah. And especially because I think it's not necessarily corporations intentionally trying to strangle their future. It's corporate greed that does it, right? They're just like, well, if we let people use these things forever, then they're not going to buy from us again.
Well, exactly. Because Silicon Valley doesn't want to fund a story about how you want to build a product that makes people happy. They want to hear that you're going to build a wedge between the thing that makes them happy and a subscription that they can continuously make money on. That's the story Silicon Valley is now funding. And that's unfortunate because it drives me crazy.
So let's move on. Because I wanted to talk about this because I think you specifically have with your new station in cybersecurity working for Huntress, I think you have a lot of opinion on this. So, I'm going to let you take it away because you're the one who even sent me the situation. I missed this article.
So first, no sympathy for hackers at Huntress. That is like, we have discussions about this. So there's no sympathy. Matter of fact, the CEO of the company, Kyle, he posted today. He goes, I don't get up in the morning and go to work. I get up in the morning to wreck hackers. It's posted on LinkedIn today. And because there's some cool stuff that we're going to be doing, talking about an operation we work with the FBI on. Anyways, but I have no sympathy for this person. He did some horrible things. He ransomware, blah, blah, blah. But what came out of it, and this seems obvious to me, like I moved away from Windows in 2009. Mm-hmm. I have no problem supporting clients of Windows because that's a different type of use case. But for my personal stuff, I always found Windows to be very invasive. And over the years, with all we're going to give you OneDrive and Copilot, we're going to annoy you with logins. And, I see all these issues with Windows. Great for the business world because it syncs up everything in Intune. You can line it up. But for the average user, Windows has become an absolutely garbage experience.
100%.
It's full of telemetry and things like that. But now, granted, OPSEC fail 1,000%. Awesome that this person was so epically dumb and not understanding how Windows telemetry worked because they were using Edge. And so it combined the Edge telemetry and the telemetry from Windows, and Microsoft was able to identify this person because what they would do is the telemetry is always just phoning home with your details and your global identifier that uniquely identifies that system as you. But when he turned a VPN on, they would just watch the IP change from where he was to behind the VPN. So they're so they were able to do correlation data of, hey, he was in Edge, he was on the ngrok site, creating reverse tunnels. ngrok's a service you can use for that. It's a paid service. So he's creating tunnels, and he's on that site at the same exact time that his IP changed, and it's in the browser. So they had all this correlation data of, like, sure, he used a VPN, but here's all the correlation data that said where he was. And the global identifier was now just coming out the VPN, which we know that's him. There's some legal problems, though, I have with the way this was handled, because a blanket order, they want to know all global identifiers that touch an IP address. The fact that Microsoft has a lot of that data is kind of scary. Yeah. That's the part I don't like. So I'm happy that we have the person and he's not doing bad things anymore and he's awaiting trial. But assuming, allegedly, I'm not saying he did these bad things. That's how trials work. It's guilty only after proving guilty, not. But it really just raises a lot more privacy concerns about things. And there's some people like, well, you're giving hackers a heads up. I got some dumb comments on that video, but I'm like, no, I'm giving, hopefully, people who care about their privacy a heads up, because there's a lot of concerns I have with the way that information was gathered.
Yeah, and I think that people who make that statement, like that commenter who's saying, well, you're letting them, the bad guys know the secrets, like, that's the problem. I mean, I shouldn't say problem. That's the reality of privacy, is that, privacy should be equally afforded to everybody, bad guys and good people. And, one person or groups of people using something illicitly, that doesn't mean that that's a justification for stripping away privacy. That whole concept of, like, I don't have a problem with them knowing what I'm doing, Tom, because I'm not doing anything wrong. That's ridiculous. So I'm with you. That doesn't feel like the fact that telemetry's there is,
And
I
here's an example. When a judge issues a blanket order like that, everyone who is using that VPN exit node could get flagged in it. So now you suddenly, potentially, depending on how skillfully this data is used, Microsoft completes a blanket order. Here's all these people. What if you were one of those people who was popping out that VPN? They're like, oh, look, your Windows telemetry let us know that you come out that VPN at the same time this person was. This is like when they, and this has happened a few times when they do blanket orders for like cell phones. So like, we know someone called from this particular area. Give me an order for every cell phone in this geographic area. What if you happen to be standing there? You know, you suddenly, hold on, we're going to detain all the people that were standing in this area attached to this cell tower. Here's all their cell phones. This is the part that I got a lot of it, a little bit more concerned with the overall, from my takeaway from the order.
Can I just say that it's kind of shocking that this one, I'm assuming that this is a younger kid that was picked up. They always tend to be younger kids that are doing it, but the fact he wasn't using Linux in his environment is like, how bad of a hacker were you? You know,
this is the most common comment on that, is all these people like, what kind of an idiot doesn't use Linux? There must be, I didn't look, there's probably 200 or 300 comments with that same thing of he was using Windows. Like, I know.
Like, well, he got what he deserved then.
He's also posting on Instagram. He got like a whole diamond thing that said hack the planet. Like his Instagram just cringe of the money he made doing it. So there's allegedly made doing that. Somehow he made a bunch of money.
I'm sure it was his weekend job at the grocery store that afforded that
I think
Lambo.
there's probably a picture of him in here of his gold chains and things like that.
Let's see if we got a picture of him.
They might.
No, it doesn't. Well, look, it keeps on going. Yeah, that's the end.
Yeah, it's the end. But yeah, they had a picture of him in well, I had pulled it up because he had the gold chains and things like that. So a little cringe.
Yeah, probably was pretty easy to attribute his financial station based on his activities that way too. Yeah, I mean, what have we learned, if anything? Well, most of these hacking groups have no OPSEC, right? It's just terrible.
There's two sides to it. I mean, their own OPSEC is terrible. That's great for us that are trying to defend it. It's the other unfortunate side is people think that they're really skilled. Honestly, they're the script kiddies. I don't know. We call them. Someone had a good term for this. I forgot what it was. Sloperators.
Sloperators.
It was because they're just using AI. Like, how do I hack? And a lot of them they don't. I mean, they have some skills. They know how to execute on this. And there's some complexities in getting into the ransomware ecosystem. You have to understand how to move the money, how to move it in Bitcoin, and how to get right ransom notes. But these tools do allow, and these companies, unfortunately, don't patch things. And these companies are not as secure as they should be. Then they go and poke at the edges, go through an attack plan that maybe some LLM helped them write, some phishing lure email that sounded good enough. Because what does a kid at 19 know about writing a phishing email? Generally not a lot. So
not a whole lot of time in the seat, right? So
yeah, how's he going to fool some adult at a place to click on something? I don't know. I'm going to ask AI to do it for me. Why do I have to know? And so people thinking that he was extra skilled, I'm like, I don't really think so. So I don't really know how good or bad his hacking skills are. Obviously, good enough to accomplish this accomplish some ransomware, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Well, I think they're still, even though we've how long have we been at this now? At least a decade of ransomware just being a major issue.
I don't even think it's been that long.
No,
I have to look. Maybe a decade. I have to look when ransomware really became part of the vernacular. That's Google Trends.
Yeah.
I got to know the answer to this now. I want to know who's right.
Time, because I'm trying to think, it's since 29, it's been around since at least 2019, and that's 7 years, almost, 7 years. It's got to be.
Yeah, so you past 5 years. Yeah, so it's been around for quite a while. How far back can it go? We'll do custom. Start date 202.
Let's get more realistic than that. So, Arctic Wolf, your competitor has the history of ransomware. They claim 1989 to 2020 or 2010 was the development years. So they claim that the phrase ransomware has been around since 1989. That's
the phrase has been around for a long time.
Sure.
But when did it really enter the public vernacular is the question that we want to know.
Yeah, good question. They claim that 2010, 2016 was entering to mainstream. That's what they claim on this article. I don't, but it's the internet. So
it's the internet. We just make things up as we go along. That's my theory.
Yeah, Bitcoin was actually, you think about it, it probably tracks really nicely along when Bitcoin became generally a term.
2012 was when it started trending on Google. It was it's not part of Google Trends until 2012. So actually over a decade. And it peaked April of 2017. That's where it goes like crazy high. And it's then goes back and forth. So Google Trends shows it's been around for a while.
Yeah. It feels like it felt like it had this great rise or crescendo and led to a lot of response from the InfoSec industry producing tools and things like that, where it became, there was a huge boon, right? Like when did
ransomware? It existed in such a small niche, and the ransomware got big with Bitcoin. It was the ability, once we connected and had a methodology to move the money, that's when it took off. They're like, that's the missing part. Well, you know how to hack people. We can extort them. We don't know how to get money out of them. We don't know how to get the money to us. That was like Bitcoin was the glue that put that thing together.
The crime coin, right?
You
reminded me. I remember like early on hearing stories, because I remember back in the day when ransomware was just like, they were targeting anybody, like grandmothers and elderly people. And I remember reading the story about this old lady who went to her bank and asked for, I can't remember, some money for Bitcoin. And the guy behind the teller was like, why do you need Bitcoin? She's like an 80-some-year-old woman. And then found out that she had been ransomware and she was being extorted for this money. And just like, I think they got wise to that, and I don't think they really. I'm sure they would attack somebody if the software is indiscriminate, but it feels like these days they're really targeting at people they know will pay, like corporations and hospitals and banks and people.
And it was always like before Bitcoin and just cryptocurrency in general. It was always like, get these iTunes gift cards and things like that. And then it So, but I see 2013 Crypto Locker. That's the one that really sticks in my head right there. That was when it really, Crypto Locker was huge. Like that was the first big, like skyrocketed up to the top of the vernacular and common language of people. It's everyone knows what ransomware is. You don't have to talk to anyone in the technical community. Anyone knows what it is now. It's just part of everyday life.
It's ubiquitous. Yeah. If there's anybody in this chat who hasn't been in a situation where you've received a phone call in the day job from somebody who's frantically asking what they do about the fact that the CEO of their company just asked them to buy 10 iTunes gift cards. So many stories of that. Or the text messages to your cell phone from the CEO of the company who's never spoken a word to you in your entire life saying, I need you to go out and get me some gift cards right now and please send me the numbers.
Yep.
Good times.
I seen someone said ransomware got big when it hit Synology. It wasn't Synology. It was QNAP that made the news. QNAP.
That's right.
I haven't followed Q. At least I haven't seen QNAP in the news. They just get so pwned that it just isn't.
Or they got their shit together. One of the two.
Those things have happened. I just don't hear about them anymore.
Yeah, I don't necessarily either, Cheryl, except your cookies. I mean, they're still making gear. I mean, I don't know how much gear anyone's selling.
The Q Locker. QNAP for a while there was just having a really bad time and a really poor response to any security problems. They were ignoring security researchers. I had done a video on it because so many people asked about it. I just covered, all the security researchers and the problems that they were having, like telling QNAP about their problems.
Yeah, I think they just got their shit together. I mean, but yeah, I remember if you had them there was some backdoor for them, right? And people were plugging them into their internet connections and there you go.
They had like hard-coded creds and all the usual stupid stuff that we see. And it's like, really, could someone do on your code base just a control F, find this a little bit? Maybe I'm just too simple of a thinker. I would walk into these companies, go, can we do Control F and see if you have any credentials logged just in the code base? Has anyone thought to try that? Because we keep finding new vulnerabilities where new credentials are found.
Yeah, it's funny, but we say that, but then look at like Fortinet and all of pants down things that they've done too. Maybe not necessarily leave hard-coded credentials in the system anymore, but still, like
good news. It's been a minute. It's been a couple years since they found hard-coded credentials in Fortinet, but they have found them a lot. My favorite is still my what I throw at them is Fortinet running MySQL as root on their appliance. I'm just like, who runs MySQL as root besides people who are just learning Linux and trying to set up something? And like,
who don't know?
The question is, I don't know permissions. I'll run everything as root.
Funny, when you do that, nothing stops you from doing anything. So it's a blocker creator. So yeah. Good times. Yeah. Well, Tom, look, I let's bring this back because I promised
to chat too.
What's that?
SolarWinds.
Yeah, SolarWinds is another one. I mean, they've actually kept their nose clean pretty good since SolarWinds 1, 2, 3. That was
great.
Yeah, that was great. I just want to find the intern that put that in there, and
I like that they blame the intern.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, we got Equifaxed before then. That was like before SolarWinds, we got Equifax. And Equifax was what, 2017, I think.
Oh, that was a huge one. I mean, don't get me wrong. SolarWinds was a great nation state attack because it got them into governments and industry. But like the Equifax thing took all of our credit information, all our social security numbers.
Everything's been public ever since.
Yeah. Yep.
And anyone who's read the debrief on Equifax, it's a series of everyone knew the problem existed. No one owned it. Like they knew the certificates were expired. They like the whole list of things that were going on was great, but it was into it wasn't Slack, whatever they were using. Might've been Slack. There's notices would get dropped in the Slack channel, but there was like 50 people in the channel and everyone thought it was someone else's job to do it. So can you imagine? It's like, yeah, well, that certificate's still broke. One day that person who's in charge of it, no one knows who this person is, will fix that. Look, another
someday. And instead, everything
stops. Someone fixed it. Oh no, someone hacked it.
God, that was bad, and nothing bad came about it for them.
I mean, their stock price went up. They got in trouble. Their stock price went down, then went back up. So not real trouble, but minor, momentary trouble until SolarWinds came along, and then they're like, "Ha! Forgot about us, didn't you?"
Yeah, the heat is off. Now we're just gonna keep our heads down.
That's the theory we're on right now. Is you're only in trouble until the next egregious thing happens. So and the good news is egregious things happen all the time. So every time there's some incident on something, you're like, just give it 5 minutes. Don't even bother doing a PR release. How quiet can we be? Something will happen. This will get swept under the rug.
We live in interesting times, don't we? That's for sure.
I'm done living in interesting times. I don't want to live in interesting times anymore.
Yeah, that's
the idea. It turns out not.
Yeah, it's one of those jokes. Like, how did we end up on this timeline? Out of all the timelines we could have taken,
it's Harambe. That's right.
It's just poor Harambe. It's just deviated down at that point.
Yeah.
I promised you an hour so you could take off, and we've reached the hour. So, Tom, I want to bring this to a close. Thank you again. It's always so much fun hanging out with you. So we will do it again very soon. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. All right, man. Have fun.
Thanks, Tom. See you guys
later.